All right, so welcome back to Biblio Files, and I am so excited about my guest today. Now, I have to tell you that I've known Richard for a while, and I've always been fascinated with what he does. As a matter of fact, I was so fascinated with it that the main character in my book series is, ta-da, a ghostwriter. She makes her living writing stuff for other people and not taking credit for it. Or at least most of the time not taking credit for it. And so this is kind of exciting because we all think of, sitting down and writing a book, but there's a lot of different ways to get published. And the other thing that Richard does, and does quite beautifully, is he coaches people on how to get their books done. We all know that sometimes just getting started is the hardest part, and building up your confidence level for how to actually get a book written and then get it published. And Richard helps people with that. Richard G. Lowe Jr., welcome to our show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So Richard lives in Florida.
Beautiful Florida.
In Washington. And we're like all this far apart, but we managed to get involved with each other basically because of the whole idea of publishing and making money with your published works. And we found that there was an affinity there, and we have gone back and forth now for 2 or 3 years?
I think it's been almost 4.
Almost 4. Helping one another with various projects and things like that. And so it's my turn to interview him because last time he interviewed me. So, and I have some very pointed questions for a ghostwriter. Woo, spooky. So, sorry, I had to do that.
It's okay.
Richard, first of all, you didn't start out as a ghostwriter. You started out by writing your own books.
Yeah, I started out by, I left Trader Joe's. I used to work at Trader Joe's, and I was wondering what to do after that. So I always wanted to be a writer. I've always written like technical manuals and stories and things like that. So I just started writing books, and I ran into a infomercial, or webinar as they call them. And there was this lady there, I'll leave her nameless, and she was offering a series of courses on how to write nonfiction books. So I joined and wrote several nonfiction books, and finally wrote one that became a bestseller in its Kindle category, not bestseller, like in the New York Times.
Right.
I think it sold 10,000 copies.
Not terrible.
It was pretty good, and it jazzed me up. So I wrote a whole bunch more books. Nothing sold even close to it. I had a second one that was Kindle bestseller, How to Sell on eBay. The first one was Focus on LinkedIn. And I soon realized, well, first of all, I started working for a ghostwriter. He was starting a ghostwriting company. And nice guy, didn't really understand business very much, but overall a nice guy, and he had a lot of good ideas and things. But we went our separate ways because I realized that writing a book and getting paid just a few $1,000s wasn't worth it. So I went out on my own, and the same day that I left, I pulled in a $15,000 book contract. And within a week after I left, I pulled in a second $10,000 book contract. So, okay, fine. So what I realized then at that point is there was no way that I was going to make a living as a self-published author, but I could easily make a living as a ghostwriter. And so I decided to do both. So I ghostwrite and write my own books. So the writing my own books, yeah, it makes income, it's fine. But writing for other people, I also found was my passion. And then what happened is I got contacted by this one guy. He's a French a CMO, so Chief Marketing Officer at a Fortune 50 company in France. And he hired me to write a book about a technical book, not technical, but about a technical subject like AI, artificial intelligence. And it was loads of fun. So I started pitching for those kind of jobs. And now I'm writing, believe it or not, 8 books at the same time. And they're all on artificial intelligence, digital transformation, robotics, cybernetics, yeah, things like that. Advanced books, plus a novel that I just finished, a young adult novel, and just got a contract for some children's books. So I'm kind of all over the map, and that's been, my career is going very well, and I made the right decision. I can make a living as a ghostwriter, as a full-time job, and then also write for myself as just a hobby, or for fun, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I think it's awesome. I've watched you develop in your chosen field here and seen the things that you've gone through, the lessons you've learned, all of those kinds of things, that you really have found what you want to stick to. And I think that that's really important. It's not for everybody, but you're writing over 10,000 words a day, where most people don't even write 10,000 words in a week. Writers, especially fiction writers, how do you produce so much?
I turn off social media, cell phones, turn off all distractions. I got the perfect writing environment. I live in a good complex. I make sure that I walk and stay healthy and get my sleep in. That kind of thing is important. Like, I only got 3 hours sleep last night, and my writing went down like, forget it. Writer's block, beyond writer's block today.
Right.
Just because I didn't get enough sleep.
So what you're saying is that your level of health definitely affects your writing.
Your level of health, your mental environment, the environment around you, the people around you, are they encouraging? Are they discouraging? Things like that. I actually, one of the things I coach my writing clients on is a writer's block and what to do about it. And it's generally 2 or 3 hour coaching session on figuring out exactly what's causing them to block and helping them work out solutions. And that's something that I offer to writers to help them. So
what are some of the causes that you've discovered with people that are keeping them from writing at their top game?
Well, number one is not considering writing as a profession. So they consider writing as something that it's creative and that they can do and that it takes time. And if you were in a real job, you have to go there whether you want to write, whether you want to do your real job or not. If you're an accountant, you have to go to the office and do accounting. If you're screwing widgets onto tires in an assembly line, you better be screwing those widgets on. Well, if you're a writer and you're doing it professionally, you just better do it. And sometimes it's like today, I have a little bit of a migraine and it's a grind, and I'm still going to grind out a couple thousand words after this meeting. And I'll have done, I'm not going to do 10,000 words today, but I'll probably have done 4,000. So it's that's one of the main things is the consideration that you have in your head that, well, I'm working from home, I can relax a little bit, I can work it around things. Stop that. Treat it as a job. And it's a fun job, but set hours, set times, set goals. How many books do you want to write this year? And also another thing is you get blocked on one book. So we'll have 2 going. So you get blocked on book number 1, work on book number 2 and make them different. Some kind of different subject or some kind of different, not like volume 1 and 2, make it like 2 different books. Working in different genres helps. So if you're a mystery writer, try writing a science fiction book at the same time. And that one you tend to write, so you write your mystery book as your primary one, and then your science fiction book is, say, more of a hobby thing, when you're stuck. And that can loosen up the creative juices. Taking walks. A big one that affects a lot of people is the fixed distance between my eyes and the screen. And it's especially true in this pandemic, is all day long I'm staring at a computer screen. So that distance doesn't change. It tends to hypnotize you. And you need to get up every hour or 2 and walk for 5 minutes, look at the walls, talk to somebody. Don't get distracted with social media. Never do that. That's the next thing is turn off, literally shut off every piece of social media you got, every cell phone, the phone. When you're writing, you're writing. You tell your family, when I'm sitting here at the computer, unless the house is burning down, and it better be really burning down, you don't interrupt me. I'm writing. This is my writing time. This is a job. And
I love that, because I used to always tell even just anybody who works from home that they need to make an appointment with themselves.
right,
These are my office hours from this time to this time, and
right.
I'm available to talk, chat, play, whatever from this time to this time. And you have to train the people around you to recognize that and respect that. And so when somebody says, hey, can you go do such and such? I say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment at that time. And leave
Yes.
it at that. And it's true, because I write it down, and it's an appointment with myself, and I have to be in integrity with myself and my goals if I'm ever going to accomplish anything.
I use Google Calendar, and it shoots up alarms on my computer. You need to write now. And I have my client names up, so I switch between them during the day. There are a number of other techniques that you can use. The idea is make the perfect writing environment. Oh yeah, the other reason why you can get writer's block is covert comments, where you'll get a negative comment that's covert. You give your book or your article out to somebody to read, and they'll come back and say, it's okay. Or, it wasn't my genre. Or, I think you need to fix the main character. Those are all general comments. They're not actionable.
Mm-hmm.
So what they tend to do is cause your mind to spin. And it just grinds and grinds. What could be wrong with it? Why didn't they like it? Why didn't they read it? And you grind and grind and grind on it. And before long, and you're locked up. Mm-hmm. And you just got to ignore those non-actionable critical comments. Now, an actionable critical comment, which in writing critique courses is great. Character John in chapter 3, he's acting out of character in these 3 paragraphs. You can fix that, right where it is. You have a spelling error somewhere in your book. That's pretty useless. Yeah. Or don't you know how to do grammar? I got an Amazon review. It's like, you're a terrible writer. You had grammar errors. Okay, so I sent it to a proofreader. There were 3 in a 400-page book, 3 grammar errors. Big deal.
Right.
Well, even Stephen King has grammar errors sometimes.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that I've noticed is professional writers, you're still going to find years and years later, after they've been wowed over and accepted as being brilliant, you still find errors in their books. I don't think it's possible to write a perfect book in terms of grammar and spelling and little typos and blah, blah, blah. But with my book, I did 9 complete edits the first time I sent it out. Guess what? 2 weeks later, I found an error that I had to go back and correct.
Of course.
And it wasn't a big error, and probably nobody else caught it, because there were already people saying, oh, your book is great. I really enjoyed it, blah, 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 who had finished the book and never noticed it. I did, thanks to, something that you and I did together, I did an interview with Mercedes Lackey. And she gave me 3 pieces of advice. And one of the first one was, don't ever read your reviews.
Yeah, I don't read them either.
She said, Hemingway gets bad reviews. Okay. Dickens gets bad reviews. Tolkien gets bad reviews. Don't worry about it. Write the best story you can and let the ones who like it love it, and the ones who don't, leave them alone. And so I think that was really good advice.
By the way, that Lackey review is on uniquesouls.com.
Oh.
So you can go, whoever's listening, you can go to uniquesouls.com, and all the interviews for Author Talk is there.
Cool. That's awesome. Oh, that was such a fun interview. At any rate, so, all right. So
I want to go into something. I don't know if you wanted to go into this or not, but the biggest wall that writers face, this is what I have to coach all my writing clients on, and a lot, is the wall of marketing.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's like going through a firewall or a monster-filled cave or something. The problem is a lot of people go into writing because they tend to be introverts, and it's easier for them to talk to. Now, if you're not an introvert, don't take exception to that. But a lot of people write because they're talking to a computer, and they don't they don't necessarily react or interact with people very well, or they can't because they're disabled or something like that. Well, marketing requires a bit of extroversion, like a lot. So when I left Trader Joe's and started writing, that was something that wasn't prepared to do, and I'd never done before. I mean, was a computer geek. I was a manager, but I didn't have to deal with the extroversion and the social nature of marketing and stuff at all at Trader Joe's. And I had to spend more time on that than anything. I mean, I can write like she said, 10,000 words a day. I can do that. I can do interviews. I can do all kinds of things, but the marketing took me quite a while, and Bonnie was helpful with this because she's a marketing expert, by the way, to figure out how to market and to actually do it. And that's the important thing about marketing is you can figure all you want, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it regularly. And I know you've got a whole system. I don't want to get into that.
No, well, that's a show for another time.
But I have a system for getting ghostwriting clients, which is what trips up 90% of the ghostwriters is they don't know how to get clients.
Right.
And that's probably the most important thing of being any kind of freelancer. Ghostwriter is just a type of freelancer. And being a writer is how do you get client? Client could be the person who buys your books if you're writing fiction. For me, a client is somebody who's going to pay me to write them a book.
Right.
Or an article. Doing a lot of articles lately on COVID, by the way. It's funny. They want to hire me to do pandemic articles. Okay. It's fine. My rates are thus. Sure, we'll pay that. Okay, there you go. You have to market. So, that means you're going to do some cold calling. You're going to do some cold emails. By cold calling, I mean you're going to pick up the phone. You're going to call somebody who doesn't know you.
Well, and for me, I mean, as a fiction writer, for me, it was all about, okay, I have a daughter who used to go to all the Comic-Con conventions. Okay. And I always thought that was really cute and cool and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a bit of a nerd myself, but I'd never been to one. This last year, I got myself out of the house and spent 3 days at a Comic-Con, RadCon here in Pasco. It was a blast. I had so much fun and it was great, but I was so nervous about it. Now I'll go out and do as many of them as we can as soon as this thing breaks. But
I used to photo.
Out of your comfort zone.
I used to photograph Comic-Con in San Diego, 120,000 people in one building, plus 100,000 trying to get into that one building.
Right.
And actors and actresses, big name stars and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to walk up to a supermodel and say, "Hi, I'm Richard. Can I take your picture?" And she's a supermodel, but she's used to it. And that's, the actors are used to it. The actresses are used to it.
And that's nice to dip your toe in. In my case, it was a local community thing and it wasn't really huge. And so I was able to do stuff and I sold some books and all that kind of cool stuff. But, I think a lot of people who like to write seem to think that, they tend to focus on either making the next how-to book that everybody's going to want to buy, or fiction, when if they just really like to write and don't necessarily have a specific genre or focus, writing for other people can make you some fairly good income if you follow through with the marketing and like that.
You have to be able to get the clients, and that means you have to be able to find them. So you have to get good leads, and you have to be able to talk to them.
And you have to have something to show them.
You have to have something to show them, or you have to be a really good talker. As a ghostwriter, one of the problems is you can't show things because you're under non-disclosure. So
You've written a lot of books on your own.
I've written a lot of books, and I've got clients now. I've got enough clients where some will do referrals, and so that's working out. I just lost a client. He was ready to sign the contract, and he says he wanted a sample of one of the artificial intelligence books I read. Well, they're all under non-disclosure. I can't give him one. So can you give me just the first 3 pages? When I said, it's under non-disclosure, dude, I can't do that. And he just stopped talking to me, which is always perplexing. Why didn't you just at least send me an email back saying I'm not interested because, yeah, there's no way I'm going to, no, I'm going to violate a customer's trust.
Well, and you are dealing with people, and just like, you know, what we were talking about the reviews, there's all kinds of people, and you never know what their motivations are or anything else. So all you can do is put out your best and leave it at that and move on to the next one.
People who, and then I run into the nicest clients. You know, you get the clients who live in the trailer park, who are going to give you $15,000 to write a novel for them. And you're like, how? Okay.
Right.
And
Well, and because they believe in what they're doing and whatnot.
yeah.
And that's the other thing. People pay you because you deliver what you promised that you would, and they're willing to do that. And I think that it's the same thing with an author of a fiction book.
It is.
One of the reasons I wrote 3 books in such rapid succession, I published 3 books in 12 months, and they're 400 pages each, pretty much.
So they were short.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Fluffy things. But the reason I did that was because people want to know that you're going to follow through, especially if you write series, you know. And so I wanted to have that credibility out there that says, hey, when I say I'm going to deliver, I deliver. Now I have fans who are like, when you're going to write the next one. And when I tell them I'm going to do it and I'm going to have it done by a certain amount of time, that's my personal deadline that I choose to be in integrity with. And I think that that's with any project, whether it's large or small. When you're writing, you need to be in integrity for yourself. You need to have that commitment. Otherwise, it's just a hobby.
Well, let me tell you a story. I'm writing a book on cybersecurity now, and I was hired. Basically, I wrote it. Somebody wrote it before. I was hired to upgrade it to modern times in 2016, and I was hired again in 2020 to upgrade it again. This is a big project. It's many thousands of dollars and over a lot of time. And I set a bunch of milestones. You know, on these dates, I'm going to have these things done. And the guy who's my editor, who I send the books to, the chapters to as I'm done with them, he's a big name. He's a really big name in that field. He's been published in all the magazines. He's had over 1,000 articles published in magazines, not just, plus another 1,000 in blogs, plus about a dozen books on cybersecurity. He knows his stuff. And he told me that I am the first and only writer that he's ever known who has ever met schedules before.
Oh.
He's coached and managed hundreds of writers, if not thousands, in a long career. And I'm the first one who has been on the nose with every single milestone. He's so excited about that. And not only, it's also getting quality. He's having to do editing, of course, because that's his job.
Of course.
And he's very nitpicky, and it's like, okay, you know, sometimes, but it's a very interesting feeling. And that's the way you need to be. If you're going to write your own books, you need to set your own deadlines. You need to set your own, you're responsible to yourself at a minimum.
Right.
And it's so easy, especially working from home. Like we started this discussion, it's so easy to say, well, yeah, I'm working from home. You know, I got all the time in the world to do this. You know, I got my unemployment coming in, and
yeah, pull out the Candy Crush.
Yeah, you know, play those video games and play on social media. Well, first of all, let me tell you, social media is absolutely worthless for a career. Turn off the social media. As far as let's get in a little bit on this. As far as advertising on social media, I get asked this question all the time. Well, why don't you just take out some ads on Facebook or Google or Bing or like LinkedIn or YouTube? Unless you have been trained in it and know exactly what you're doing and have Lady Luck on your side, you've got to bribe her a little bit, and the Google gods are with you, you will fail. I've probably dumped $1,000 into Facebook ads over the years, because it always pops up and says, oh, you can boost this for $5. You go, okay, sure. What's $5? Well, those $5 add up. And just don't do it. Don't bother. Do not buy Facebook ads. Do not buy YouTube ads. Do not buy any kind of ads, any of those things. Don't buy ads in the writing newsletters that go out. There's a couple exceptions.
Actually, what I found is that it's about creating relationships.
It's relationships.
It's about People buy my books initially, oftentimes just because they like me. Just because I've talked to them and they love my enthusiasm and all those kinds of good stuff. And so they buy my book. And then they go, oh, this is a really good book. And so I have turned away from the idea of advertising to the idea of creating relationships. Now, there's this really nice connection you can make with influencers, people who already have established relationships with other people. That's where you need to make your connections with. The whole business of advertising, I've talked to author after author after author after author, that it is not conducive. You might get a few sales off of it. And like you said, if you luck out and it ends up in the right spot on Facebook or wherever, Instagram or, whatever, you might luck out. But it's really all about creating relationships. People like to be connected with authors. It's one of the luxuries of our day is that we can make those connections with people who write books that we admire and that sort of thing. So at any rate,
Yes, it's really important to understand that. Well, on uniquesouls.com, I did an interview with a lady who I asked, she's very popular, and you can find her interview on Unique Souls. I forget her name, but she sells thousands and thousands of copies of her books. And I asked, well, how do you do that? And she says she works with her church group. She has 700 people in her church group that she has in a group on Facebook. It's a private group that help her. And she runs little contests, and she does all kinds of things to make it exciting for them and interesting. And probably 50 of those 700 people actually do anything other than possibly share something.
sure.
But her reach is tremendous. And that's one of the secrets, is create as you call it, a tribe or a group that helps you, because if you want to write, you do not physically have the time, unless there's two of you. And even then, to do that kind of promotion that we're talking about, building relationships, you need to have people helping you. And you can get influencers you can ride on the coattails of influencers. You can do that by making podcasts like we're doing here. Because whenever you interview an influencer, their people come see it. I just released one. I haven't showed it to you yet, but I just released one that's going to go out pretty soon on anchor.fm, which is where I'm doing them. It's a pretty good one too. So I'm interviewing high-level influencers, CEOs. I interviewed a CEO of an AI company. And she's on there. She's going to send it out to her mailing list pretty soon. You have to find a way to leverage your time. Build a group and get that group engaged, and ignore the rest of social media, because it's absolutely worthless for this kind of thing. So your options are to build a group and ferment that group and get it growing and get those people excited about what you're doing, however you do that, and spend the time that way.
I think that we have enough information between the two of us that we could probably do this 20 times and not cover everything. But I do appreciate the fact that you've been willing to share some of this with us. How do people get in touch with you if they need help writing their book, or if they, as a book coach, or if they need someone to write a book for them for their business?
Well, that's really easy. If you need help personally, like one-on-one services, either ghostwriting or coaching, go to thewritingking.com. So it's thewritingking.com. And you'll find a contact form there, and send me an email from that, or send me a message from that, and I'll get it and I'll respond to you. That works. If you need, say you want to learn how to write, I have a book called or a site called fictionmasterclass.com. And on there, I actually sell training that I've written, prepackaged training on how to write science fiction books, how to write fantasy books, and things like that. And you can just go over there and buy them. They're not expensive at all. I think they're $20 or something.
Actually, those I can recommend those. I had the pleasure and honor of being a beta reader for many of those courses, and they're very well written, and there's some really good information and advice there. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Richard, for joining me today. Okay, everybody, so we've got more coming on Biblio Files, and I so excited to see the number of professionals who are starting to come my way who want to have an opportunity to speak to you about the writing experience and journey and the publishing industry and all the things that go along with it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming in and joining us today. And thank you again, Richard, and we'll see everybody next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. That will be a great help to me, and maybe we'll help somebody else who needs to hear this today. Thank you so much, and have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.